Hey folks, have you ever had a campaign that got headed off in an area and it was really hard to add any NPCs or any of the roleplay aspects of D&D into it? Whether you're in a big dungeon crawl and there's nothing but baddies as far as you can see, or you've ended up in a remote area and it's devoid of civilization? Well, on this episode of Dragons and Dice, I'm going to fix that. And we're going over 3 ways to keep the roleplay rolling in your D&D games. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. So I found that of the 3 tenets of D&D, exploration, roleplay, and combat, the only one that really gets left in the wayside is the role-playing aspect. There's always exploration just by the nature of the game. If you get to a new area, town, dungeon, wilderness, jump to a new plane of existence, you're going to be exploring just to figure out where you're at and where you're going. Combat also seems really easy to build in, as there's always someone to fight. And if you've got a group of murder hobos like I do, they'll find people to fight even when there's not any. And so that part's not hard to work in either. But sometimes when you get off on an adventure, the roleplay aspect of the game can kind of fall by the wayside. And I don't really like that because it's one of my favorite parts of D&D. And so here are 3 things that I'm doing to keep the roleplay happening at the tables. First up, we're going to go with something that I absolutely love, and that's a sentient item. And these are super easy ways to add a traveling NPC to the party. And just because a weapon's sentient doesn't mean that it has to be an all-powerful, legendary artifact with the soul of a god trapped in it that's going to completely blow your game up. This can be like a witch's hat that has a taxidermied raven on it that can talk to you in the party, or little things like that. Just simple stuff that lets you put in a character that you get to play out while the party's out in the middle of nowhere, doing their adventuring. So as the DM, all you really got to do is just figure out a fun personality that you want to add to your group, stick it into an item, and make that item a little bit special so that they're kind of prompted to use it. I mean, there's no point in using a longsword if it's just talking to you, but if it gives you +1 to hit, you'll put up with a lot of insults that sword may throw at you for that extra chance to hit things. And so what I like to do with these is that I don't start using whatever personality I've made for the weapon right off the bat. I just put that little gem in my pocket, and then when something cool happens, like a crit, or even better, a negative crit, allow me a cruel chuckle. Aha, aha, aha. Pop out that new personality, and it can either be talking trash to the people that the players are killing, or better yet, if that PC just whiffed and they're okay with it, you can talk a little trash to them as their sword insults them for their lack of martial prowess and capability. One thing to note on this, don't give these out to people if you think that they'll be insulted or hurt by you picking on them a little bit with their weapon. Give it to someone who's going to be a good sport about it and can take the joke. You shouldn't ever be a bully as the DM at your table, but these are fun ways to add in some humor if you give it to the right person at the table. Personally, I think these go over a lot better if they're really kind of like funny personalities. You don't want the like super strong warrior guy that's just always talking trash and like insulting people for how great they are and that. You want it to be something that's going to bring some levity to the situation. I mean, there's always a lot of grim, dark fights in D&D, and it's good to add some humor back in when you get the chance. So for the one that I have this week that we'll go over in our homebrewed item of the week, it's a kooky wizard, but we'll let him tell you more about the item that he's trapped in himself. Now it's time for the homebrewed item of the week. Oh, hello, adventurers. This is DIsdane Dun Dittiest, Fizbane's third cousin, twice removed, on my mother's side, of course. And I've gotten rid of that terrible guy that is normally here, and I am going to tell you about the best of the D&D items, and it is the Gambler's Curse Gauntlet. And oh, it is a legendary artifact. That is so cool. And it can take the form of any weapon that you can wield, and it serves as an arcane focus for your magics, which is very nice. You get to pick the form each day, but it's called Curse for a reason. You take 4d10 each time that you finish the long rest, as this gauntlet leeches part of your soul. Oh, that does not sound nice. Don't let it get all of your soul, though, or you could end up like poor DIsdane, trapped in it forever. And worse, there are others in here too, as this gauntlet contains the souls of all the people that wore it before, and I do not like sharing the space. It's awfully crowded. And why would anyone put on this crazy thing? As it takes the place of your hand, and you can't ever take it back off except with a miracle or a wish or Well, if you wanted to do something kind of gross, you could cut your arm off above the gauntlet, but that's very ooh. But here's how it works. This is a weapon or a focus if you use a caster like me. And you get an expanded crit range, which is so nice because then you blow stuff up. And your range now goes from 18 to 20. But it's also expanded on the negative side too, which is awful. And then the DM makes you roll in the dreaded negative crit chart. Oh, I hate that thing. But if you put on the gauntlet at level 4 to 7, it works as a +1 weapon or focus. And from 8 to 14, it goes to +2. And then from 15 up, it goes all the way up to +3. And each morning after the gauntlet is done, having your soul for breakfast, ooh, you get to roll a d8 and see which of the gauntlet's inhabitants comes to the forefront for the day. And if you roll a 1, that's a gross bone naga, and the gauntlet will do extra poison damage on hits. And if you roll a 2, that's a lesser lich, and it does necrotic damage. He was not as good a wizard as DIsdane. That's why he stayed lesser witch. And then number 3 is a red half dragon, and that one is fire. And I don't like sitting behind him. It's always so hot when he's around. And then a number 4, that will give you a trident, and that's not too bad because it does water damage. And then at level 5, the storm giant, and I don't know how he fits in this glove, but it's crowded. As I said, it does lightning damage and a d6 on each hit. And at levels number 6, you get the soul of the air genasi, and it does thunder damage. And at level 7, the soul of an ice dragon, brrr, that's cold damage, 1d6. And then if he was to roll an 8, you summon the most amazing, good-looking, dashing, brilliant wizard who ever lived and ended up stuck in a gauntlet. And that would be yours truly, DIsdane Dun Dittiest. And I do force damage of 1d8. Oh, one other thing, adventurers, I should warn you. If you are wearing this cursed gambler's gauntlet and you die, you will be stuck as your soul is sucked into the gauntlet with the rest of us, and you cannot be resurrected by your adventuring friends. So keep that in mind. Until next time, this is DIsdane Dun Dittiest. Bye. Well, that's DIsdane. He's one of my NPCs that's in a sentient weapon, as you can gather. And I use him for adding some humor. He only comes up every so often because, like the gauntlet says, you have to roll a d8 each morning. And the only time his personality is at the front is when he rolls an 8. And I have it so that the whole party can hear him when that happens. He's probably one of my party's favorite NPCs, so I've added in some extra ways for the person wearing the gauntlet to get to pick which personality they want. There's a couple other little items that'll let certain things happen that if you have a rollable item, you get to pick which aspect you have for the day. And so that's a fun way to add in. If you just straight lift this, give your party extra ways to get to the fun NPC if it's something that's well received and that they like. I will warn you, when I put this out, I had that little DIsdane voice prepared for when I made the item, but the paladin that was wearing it was so unlucky that I think we went 10 sessions before he actually rolled an 8, and that's with multiple long rests during a session. It was just completely unlucky. But when it happened, it was hijinks and hilarity because I basically just narrated every single thing that he happened for that whole day in DIsdane's voice. And it was one of the most fun nights of D&D that we've had. And it was just a random weapon talking. The whole evening was mostly about fighting, but it added in some fun role play as the party got to interact with this new person that just, all of a sudden is in the group with them. So, sentient weapons, great way to add extra role play into your D&D games. All right, my second technique for when I want some breakup and we're out in the sticks doing our adventuring is I like to use the traveling merchant. And the ones I use normally come in 2 forms. One will be the snake oil salesman that is somewhere that a dope like him shouldn't have any reason being. And the other one is the wise old man that's kind of like a tinkerer from The Name of the Wind. And depending on your setting, this second one could be accompanied by like 7 gold canaries or however you want to play it. The first of these is fun, and I'll have his cart be filled with just a bunch of crap. He won't have that much gold. I do like to add in at least like one item that would be useful to the party, but not tell him what it is. And any potion that this dude sells will have like a funny name to it. And if the party member uses it, there's a good chance that it's not going to do what was on the label, as he's selling a bunch of, snake oil things. And I just love as the DM getting to play the like shisty salesperson. It's such a fun interaction with the party. The guy will end up getting killed like 60% of the time. And if he doesn't, maybe later your party can find his cart's demolished and he's missing. And then if you're heading into the dungeon, maybe he pops up again if the party liked interacting with him and he's in a cell, and it can be like a mini quest that you free this guy. But it's just a little bit of interaction that you get to put out in the world. And that's always great. The other one I like to use if the party is missing something that they might need. And this is like a great NPC to give out a little bit of story, as it's a wise old man, or he can give some lore or a hint to what's coming up in the area if they need that. And this one will not be getting the business in from the party, as if they try to attack it. It's most likely going to be some sort of deity or some very powerful wizard. And they both work as nice breakups. Like, you get to play either the goofy, shisty salesman or the wise old lore master that's kind of traveling out on his own in a place you don't think an old man should be. And it kind of makes the party go, what's special about this guy? They're fun role plays between you and them. You get to use it as a time to give out a little bit of lore or maybe some goofy, funny items if you're using the snake oil salesman. And it just adds a nice breakup, especially if you're in places like the Underdark, the Shadowfell. You know, those gross, nasty places that are underneath the material plane. We get them confused all the time. But either way, so if you're out in the world and there's not, the opportunity of a lot of people being around, the old traveling merchant is a good way to work into your game. A little bit of breakup for your session, add in some humor, lighten the mood a bit, and then go back to creeping through the Shadowfell. Now, for the third way that I'm adding in roleplay into areas where there isn't a lot of opportunity for it, and that's going to be dream sequences during a long rest. And full disclosure, I haven't implemented these yet. This is something we're talking about at my home table and that we're going to start doing. But the idea behind this is it's going to be a quick change of scenery, as when you take a long rest, there'll be like a little 15 to 20 minute dream sequence that the players will play out. And the way we have this structured and that we're going to be setting it up is this is a great way to let your PCs dip their toe into DMing some content. So the theory here is that every session or every couple sessions, a different player at the table will take and prepare a little bitty anything kind of dream sequence. This could be a really quick fight as you all are dreaming about the battle you just had. Or it could be you're getting chased and you're trying to escape from monsters. Or you could all be cats and you're trying to catch a rat. It could be anything that happens in a dream, but it's just a real quick change of scenery where everyone won't really necessarily be playing their normal character. You'll just be given a quick role in a dream sequence and you'll just role play it out. It won't be a like mechanical type battle, but it'll let the players at your table start to experience DMing a bit, and on a kind of low key, not like full pressure situation, because it's kind of a big step to move from playing to DMing because there's a lot goes into it and it can be a little overwhelming. This is a nice way to let your players dip their toes. And for you as the DM, you get to play one of the roles during the dream sequence if you want, or you can just take a break, whatever you need to do. But that's also nice for you. And then if you're in a place where it's just nothing but dungeon crawl, this is, you've had a long rest and now you get like a little 15-minute like break as you go and do something completely different. And then the party wakes up and you go right back to questing. And also, if you have a bunch of players and no one's interested in this and you still want to use the dream sequences, you can write these out as the DM and just run them during a long rest. Like, oh, each of you has a vision tonight and blah, 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 blah. And then you wake up and go back to doing what we do every night, Pinky, trying to take over the world. But I'm really excited about trying to implement these into the games. I think they're going to be a really fun way to see all the creative things that your players get to make in their little 15-20 minute sessions. And it'll be a nice breakup for the evenings. And with these three things, I think you can really add in a lot of extra character and roleplay interactions, even if you're out in the wilds doing nothing but fighting and questing, dungeon crawling, all those things. And this is a good way to keep the roleplay happening in your games. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. Thanks for tuning in and spending your time listening to me go on about my favorite TTRPG, Dungeons and Dragons. And like always, anytime you could leave a review, a follow, or a like wherever you get your podcast, it'd be greatly appreciated as it helps with exposure of a new show. We're also now on Instagram. You can check us out in the link below. And until next time, may your DMs be kind, may your D20s roll high. Bye.